Hello everybody, EK again. You know, whether we admit it or not, most of the Bible readers consider the book of Leviticus as the most avoided Bible book to read. We used to enjoy the provocative poetry of songs, the wealth of wisdom and proverbs, and the brilliant writings of Apostle Paul's letter. But when it comes to Leviticus, we just skip it right away. Many sections in Leviticus are really difficult to understand. Rule after rule, details after details, even the very thought discourages us from opening it. So is the book of Leviticus a boring book? Welcome to my channel, and today we're going to talk about the book of Leviticus. Is it boring or brilliant? And now, let's scratch the surface. At that time, God gave Leviticus to the Israelites as a practical guide for community, worship, and even for hygiene and health. Because of its dense details, we could really find it dull and boring at first. But boy, don't judge this book too early, because as we scratch the surface, there is no other book that reminds us how God takes holiness seriously than this book. The title Leviticus could lead someone to believe that the book is for priests alone. Yet, that is not the case. Much of the book relates to all of the Israelites. The book of Leviticus answers one main question: how to approach God. Can you imagine a powerful God, the master of the universe, the maker of heaven and earth, has entered the life of a small, insignificant tribe? Recognizing that profound truth would really make you jump like Bishop Jeff Arnold. So the Israelites were commanded to restructure their lives in order to fit with God, the consuming fire. Since God is holy and we are unholy, and God's desire to have an intimate relationship and fellowship with His people, how can we approach the holy God? That is why on the general outline, all of these things that we call boring actually serves a very important role, which we understand as the key motive of this book: access. Now, there are two key access that is narrated here in Leviticus on how to approach God. Number one, sacrifices. When you commit a crime, you don't just get off in court just by saying, "Sorry, I'll try not to do it again." Justice requires that you pay for what you did. The Israelites could not march into God's presence to have fellowship with Him. They had to bring sacrifices to pay or atone for their trespasses. Others would bring a bull, goat, lamb, and pair of doves. There are too many sacrifices detailed in the book. But a question could pop up in our minds: can animals really pay? To our modern world today, the blood, priest, ritual, and sacrifices are weird to us. We are baffled to comprehend how can killing a goat make things right between God and people? Biblically speaking, in the latter part, animal sacrifices were not enough to pay for human sin. But they paved the way for the true and infinitely greater sacrifice. It is agreed by many scholars that the death of Jesus on the cross is the culmination of all the animal sacrifices in the Old Testament. The blood sacrifices does not offer true atonement, but they were the means God appointed that allowed Him to pass over the sins of Israel, knowing that those sins would one day be dealt by the atonement and mediation of Christ. Now, the first key access seems pretty easy, right? But the second one? I don't think so. The second access to approach God according from His book is holiness. They say as germs are to surgeon, so is uncleanness to Leviticus. Be ye holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. There are long lists of precautions, and some of them are really weird. The Israelites were commanded what animals to eat and not to eat, how to treat skin diseases, mildewed clothing walls, bodily emissions, rules of health, rules of hygiene, and above all, moral purity. All of the enumerated rules has one meaning. God is holy, and so we must. God has called His people to be distinct and different from the nations around, whose religion did not require morality and holiness. But then, any person who tries to be holy is soon convinced he can't. There are too many rules, too many things to do and not to do. We need help. We need a Savior. In other words, to quote Galatians 3:24, "Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith." Holiness is what God desires, but holiness is what we cannot achieve by our own. The book of Leviticus had a strong emphasis on the importance of holy living for individuals and for the community. According to Pastor Paul John Guansing, Old Testament regulations and temple activities are not meant as many understood like the New Testament way of forgiveness of sin, but as shadow to it. The focus, though, is that people be fitted to the sacred space where God belongs, as to make them holy and bring offering and sacrifices that separate them from other major ancient religion around them. Leviticus, in all its laws, bring the people to the understanding about God as to who is to Israel and to the nations, and that Israel should bring it the nation's life and understanding. Now today, because of Jesus Christ, we don't live in the system of Leviticus anymore. Because of the perfect sacrifice of Jesus Christ, the animal sacrifice were now made unnecessary. He replaced the high priest as our representative before God. And Jesus cleanses the real source of contamination, our sinful nature. However, we need to be reminded that the principle behind Leviticus is still essential for us today. God is holy, and He is still calling us to the pursuit for holiness no matter how many centuries has passed. God is still the consuming fire, and we are called to live with that fire, not because we deserve to, but because God wanted our company. And even though we don't do animal sacrifices, rituals, and traditions today, God is still calling us that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And that by Him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to His name. So is Leviticus a dull book to read? Maybe, if you do not realize how profound and how deep the meaning behind it. All of the stuff that we claim as boring are really shadow of good things to come, pointing to Jesus Christ, the once for all time sacrifice for sin. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click like, comment your thoughts, share the video, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next episode. Godspeed. Now there are all of the enumerated rules, all of the